right, welcome everyone. Uh, Small class size today. Jordan must have assigned too much homework last time or something. But it's good to see you all. We have Public Works today. So I'm excited because we have our Public Works Director, Scott Fleury, here to talk about all the great stuff our Public Works Department does. So he has a presentation prepared. We're following the normal format we've been following. So I'm going to let him drive through that presentation, and then we will do a Q&A at the end. I'd assume there will be quite a number of questions because Scott oversees quite a lot of functions at the city. So it's going to be a wide-ranging presentation. And with that, I'm going to leave it in Scott's capable hands to take over.
All right, let's light this candle. Let's see. All right, can we actually see a presentation?
We can.
No, 2 days in a row it works. So thank you, everybody. I'm Scott Fleury. I'm the Public Works Director for the City of Ashland. I've been with the Public Works Department in the city for almost 18 years now in various positions. And I've given a similar type presentation for OLLI courses a couple times, and this will follow along with that, giving a general overview of what the Public Works Department does for the City of Ashland, and I'll hit on some high points, both from the engineering and management program to all of the operational divisions and what they do and provide for the community itself. So, as I said, we'll talk about engineering and capital planning and support, project management, and how things are managed and developed. We'll talk about some of the miscellaneous catch-all functions in the Public Works Department. And then I'll talk about the three big operating divisions for Public Works and what they do on a day-to-day basis. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was engineering and support and planning and project development. One of the primary functions outside of budgeting that Public Works does in the engineering group is develop projects through master planning for the enterprise funds themselves. So each enterprise, water, storm drain, streets, wastewater, even facilities, has a master plan, which is a guiding document. The master plan sets level of services. It sets goals and objectives for that enterprise or utility. It does a capital plan, provides components of maintenance for the system. It does a financial forecast for that enterprise as part of that. And how the city typically does master planning is the city council appoints a citizen community member group to work with staff and a consultant team to develop the plan itself. So I'll give an example. In 2010, the city council appointed about a 10 to 12 member, I believe it was, Ashland Water Advisory Committee citizen group that worked on the 2012 water master plan, and they worked from about 2010 to 2012, so almost a 2-year period with consultant staff and city staff to develop that master plan, of which, you know, it goes before the city council, and the city council reviews that master plan, and they finally adopt it. All of those meetings that are held with the citizen committee are public meetings where the public is encouraged to attend. They can provide feedback and comment through a public process. All of that information is brought forth to council in multiple steps, so they see what's going on as the plan develops. Finally, after things get kind of finalized and wrapped up near the end, the plan itself is taken to the city council for a formal adoption process, and the city council adopts these master plans, and they become the guiding document for that enterprise system. We've recently updated most of our master plans: water, wastewater, storm drain. We're in the process of updating a facilities master plan right now, and we will be updating the transportation system plan shortly. We like to update these plans on kind of a 7 to 10 year cycle, so you stay relevant with the changing environment for most of the enterprise utilities. Once the plan is adopted, then staff works on implementation, and the first step of implementation is developing the capital improvement plan. So we look at a 2 and a 6 year window for major infrastructure and maintenance related improvements for each utility enterprise. That plan is developed by staff and then brought to council for adoption as a standalone document. Once council adopts that master plan, or I mean the capital plan, then staff goes through with the budget process and requests appropriations for the enterprise utility itself from a materials and services standpoint, but also the capital needs. And that gets routed through the budget process, and the appropriations and approvals happen. And once the new budget cycle takes a hold, which is July 1 every other year since the city's on the biennial budget process, then we can begin project initiation for those defined capital or maintenance improvements. And by project initiation, I mean we go through a process of soliciting services for major projects from consultants who are have the specialty knowledge to assist the city in design and implementation of these projects. So I'll give an example. Right now, we've been working with HDR Engineering for about 7 years now on development of the new water treatment plant project. The city did what was called a qualifications-based selection solicitation. So you solicit consultants and you score them based on their qualifications to provide the services to the city that you're asking them to do. We have project managers who manage the process in conjunction with the consultants. So the first thing we start out after we select a consultant is we negotiate a preliminary engineering contract with them, where they develop kind of the first look at the engineering to solve the problem that we put forth before them. After we go through that process, they work on final engineering under a separate task order and contract. And that final engineering develops the final plans, specification, and estimates for the construction phase. So those are the biddable documents that we would use to obtain construction services. So we go out and bid and put a construction contract in place. And then we also put a construction administration contract in place at that same time to ensure that the contractor is conforming to what the engineer has designed as part of the improvements. Once that's all in place and the construction is completed, we do kind of what behind the scenes we call a hot wash and lessons learned, where we take the good and the bad and the ugly of the project and try to improve our processes and how we flow information to the council and to the community on these projects. So we're always in an iterative process trying to improve how we communicate both internally and externally on these projects and the project development. So that's kind of the function of engineering overall for the city. It's one of the divisions in Public Works. Now, some of the miscellaneous functions that Public Works does is we manage and maintain 3 historic cemeteries. The state has rules in place of how you maintain and take care of historic cemeteries. Public Works is also in charge of the fleet. So we maintain all of the equipment and all of the vehicles for the city itself. And one of the policy focuses over the last decade or so has been what's called a greening of the fleet. So the city has been moving forward with electrification of its vehicles and some of its small equipment. Chainsaws and leaf blowers and lawnmowers and things like that have slowly become electrified and will continue to do so. The same with light duty pickup trucks and staff vehicles becoming electric or plug-in hybrid. And that's been one of the policy directives of the city council. Public Works also maintains all the occupied and unoccupied facilities for the city and operationally. So that's the community development building, that's City Hall, that's Briscoe School, that's the Civic Center, Grove, Police Station, 90 North Mountain, where Public Works and Electric, IT, and AFN are located. All of those city facilities are taken care of from a maintenance standpoint and also a custodial standpoint by city staff. And then lastly, city owns, operates a Federal Aviation Administration General Aviation Airport, Sumner Parker Field, which is out to the east of town. And the city has had ownership of that since the 30s, I believe it is. And we coordinate with the Federal Aviation Administration, Oregon Department of Aviation on maintenance and improvements to that facility. I will say generally, a majority of things that go on at the airport are covered by grant funding, and then the airport receives lease and rental revenue to help support that fund itself. So those are a couple of just the catch-all miscellaneous functions that Public Works has purview over for the city. Now we'll start getting into the operational side with the street division. And the street division is about 8 full-time employees with a supervisor. And this is some drone footage of Siskiyou Boulevard. And the street division is obligated to maintain things within the public right-of-way. And in most of the circumstances, that means things from curb line to curb line. When you leave the curb line itself and get into Park Row landscape strip area and the sidewalk, per municipal code, that is the requirement to maintain of the adjacent property owner. And the city, even though it has a small boundary, it has a significant amount of roadway and appurtenances that need to be maintained to a regulatory status for certain things, and along with the pavement itself. And you can just see from that flyby, this is one small section of roadway that the street crew manages annually. So one of the primary focuses for street operations is pavement preservation. This includes them going out and inspecting the roadways themselves on a cyclical basis and developing what's called a pavement condition index. So it's a rating of the condition of the roadway. And they use that pavement condition index to develop a strategy on what roads require what level of maintenance and what time. So we always have an ongoing maintenance cycle of activities. The street crew themselves, they do small overlays on residential roadways, and they do crack sealing and pavement patching, all in preparation for slurry seals or other major rehabilitation projects. So you see in a couple of photos here, they're out paving, and I believe the city manager was out recently with the group, seeing what goes on a paving operation. And so paving operations are seasonally dependent. So these are things that we do during the warmest part of the year because you need to have good weather to lay down pavement materials. The other thing the street department does is a bunch of catch-all. They do vegetation management. So if there's complaints about vision clearance at an intersection, this tree is blocking this stop sign, they will go out and on a code compliance related call and request the adjacent property owner or themselves maintain that vegetation so you have unobstructed views of intersections and signage. They go out and repair potholes. They work with the police department and other agencies on special events doing traffic control. So all of the parades, they help assist and develop the traffic control and implement that. They do all of the signage and striping markings throughout the city. So in the city, there's well over 300 crosswalks, 30 plus miles of lane markings, 100 or 200 plus miles of actual travel lanes in the city, all of which need to be maintained, signage, striping, and marking. When the winter season hits, they go out and snowplow the roads. We have a street sweeper that runs every day almost annually, and in fall when the trees start to leaf out, we run 2 sweepers most of the time to keep that debris out of the storm drain system primarily. They also do grading on some of our unimproved roadways, roadways that aren't paved right now. They go out and grade and clean those up annually as needed. Over the last few years, they've been involved in numerous public art installation projects, helping install public art for the city. They also do debris removal and dead animal removal when they get called in for that. And then the street department is also tasked with supporting the police department on an emergency response level for evacuations. They help assist with that and traffic control when and if needed for an emergency response. those are the primary functions of the street department for the city overall. Now, the water system is broken up into 4 distinct divisions. And here's some drone footage. This is Reeder Reservoir. This is the city's raw water storage reservoir, and it's impounded by Osher Dam. It's a little over 800 acre-feet of storage, which is about 280 million gallons of water that can be stored. The reservoir itself is fed by the east and west forks of Ashland Creek, and the Mount Ashland watershed is what feeds that through both returning flows, but also snowpack, snow melt. And this is Osher Dam. Osher Dam was constructed in 1928 and into 1929 when the reservoir was filled in 1929. It's 575 feet long at the crest and about 114 feet tall overall. And I know a lot of people don't get to see it, but it's a pretty amazing place up there in the reservoir. And so I like to show this video just so people get kind of a scope and scale of what it looks like. Now, from the operational side, one of the divisions for water is the supply division. So that's where we manage and maintain Reeder Reservoir. We manage and maintain our Talent Irrigation District source. So we have water rights with TID that can be used as a municipal right. So in certain years where we have a low water year in the reservoir, the city can choose and take and pump TID water up to the treatment plant itself and blend it and treat it with Reeder Water Reservoir. Another supply component for the city is called the Talent Ashland Phoenix Intertie, or TAP line. This is where the city can take water from the Medford Water Commission through the TAP source. The city has 1,000 acre feet of storage in Lost Creek Reservoir that diverts at the Duff treatment plant in Medford and can be sent to the city of Ashland, again, as another emergency resilient supply when we have water year restrictions or issues with what we have going on in the reservoir. The staff who manage the supply system also manage the treatment plant, but they go up to the dam and the East and West Fork every day. They do a visual inspection of the facility. They take measurements every day of the flow and keep eyes on the facility itself. They manage the intake. So the raw water has an intake structure on the dam of which we take that water and send it down to the water treatment plant. So they manage those operations. The dam also has a spillway section that is gated, and during the summer season, those gates are dropped to allow for 3 more feet of water storage in the reservoir. And so they manage those gate operations annually. Once we get to this time of year where the reservoir is below that level, they remove the gates. And then once we start to fill back up again, the water throughout the rest of the season until we fill again spills through the spillway. Divisions, the other division is the water treatment actual division. And this is the treatment plant operators. There's a supervisor and 4 operators who staff the plant 365 days a year. They do all of the treatment processes. They do all of the water quality testing and sampling. They maintain the plant infrastructure. They coordinate with the electric department to manage the hydroelectric power generation, as the city does generate hydroelectric power at the facility. And they also do all of the organ health reporting that the Organ Health Authority requires as part of managing a water system and being a water purveyor. Now we get to the other side, which is the water distribution side. Water distribution, we have well over 100 miles of underground pipe, multiple pressure reducing valves, multiple storage tanks of treated water, and multiple pump stations all make up the water distribution system. So that group, they work on the pump stations, they repair leaks, they replace pipelines, they inspect the tanks, they manage the pressure reducing valves, they go out and test the hydrants, they work with the fire department to do fire flow testing when required. They read about 9,500 water meters on a monthly basis as part of their program. And here's another short little video. So water leaks never happen at an opportune time, you know, a Tuesday morning at 10 a.m. This is the middle of the night in December. It's freezing cold out, and one of the members is down in a muddy ditch, blocking water out of this leaking pipe while they put a repair band on it. So I will tell you, it's been a couple years now, but there were 2 years in a row, I believe, where there was a leak on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, where they were out doing repairs. They've been lucky the last couple of years, fortunately. Lastly, the other division in the water department is the Water Conservation Division. And what they do is they do audits, both indoor and outdoor efficiency audits. So if you're interested to understand your water usage and how you can reduce your water usage, both indoor and outdoor, you can call our conservation services group, and they will come out and schedule an appointment with you and audit your water usage and give you ideas and programs that you can follow through with to reduce your water usage. They do a lot of rebates. So we have our lawn replacement program, and they have other rebates for toilet replacement and things like that, that you can coordinate with them and work with them on to get rebates. They also do giveaways and public education and outreach. So they put on gray water seminars. They work with the Southern Oregon Landscape Association to look at the irrigation efficiencies that can be employed regionally. They work with the Parks Department on water conservation measures. They also review private development landscape plans and comment on that as part of a development process. So where they see that private development and their landscape plan can gain efficiencies, they will recommend changes to that as a program as well. So lastly, we'll get to the wastewater side of things. We'll start with wastewater collections. So wastewater collections manages, once you flush that toilet and once you run water in that faucet, they take it from there. So the collection system, again, is well over 100 miles of pipes, hundreds upon hundreds of manholes, lift stations that lift the gray water, brown water up and over hills and things of that nature based on the city's topography. So they repair lines, cracked lines, broken lines. They replace and or upsize sewer main lines. They are required regulatorily to inspect the system. So they have a camera truck and they go around and drive a camera and they visually inspect via camera 25% of the system annually. They do special cleaning of the system. And so this truck here is a jet rotter. So basically it's a pressure washer with a special nozzle head that they send down the sewer to clean it. It helps get fats, oils, and greases that are stuck to the sewer pipes out of there as part of their overall process. They manage the lift stations, so they go out and check all the lift stations every week to make sure that they're working correctly and there's no major clogs or issues with them. And again, I will say that on the operational side, they work streets, water, generally Monday through Friday, but each division has an on-call component. So anything that happens after hours, they will respond to as part of an emergency or a repair or something that comes up. And then we get to, once it's collected, it makes it to the city's wastewater treatment plant. Wastewater treatment plant is there to treat the water to Department of Environmental Quality regulatory standards. So there's a supervisor and 4 operators, again, at the wastewater plant. They staff that plant 7 days a week, 365 days a year, and manage that infrastructure there at the plant itself. And the plant was formally and fully upgraded in the late 90s into the early 2000s because of the changing regulatory scope and nature. And there's always ongoing maintenance things that need to be done. You might be aware recently, we relocated the outfall where the effluent leaves the plant from Ashland Creek to Bear Creek because of regulatory requirements. We're also in the process of meeting thermal limit criteria of our effluent wastewater. by riparian restoration. So throughout Ashland and other locations, we have a contractor who is planting a bunch of trees, which then offsets the solar impact into the watershed, which helps us meet the temperature criteria that's been established by the Department of Environmental Quality. And really, that's kind of a high level overview of public works. I know the last couple times I've done this, everyone's been more interested in asking a bunch of questions. So I try to get through kind of the general overview and move on to the Q&A phase of everything.